We are here as we are invited by Aqsah, Nigeria. Aqsah is a Muslim third holy mosque, Jerusalem. So when you hear Aqsah, after the mosque, the holy mosque in Kaaba, Makkah, we have the Prophet Mosque in Medina, and the third one is the Aqsah Mosque. For those who don't understand the meaning of Aqsah among us. So when we are here, the ICJ ruling and the Palestinian question. So we are going to itemize some topics here. But first of all, as I've introduced myself, I would like to introduce to my right, the chairman, Muslim community of all the Ibarapa region of Oyo State, the person of Sheikh Bilal Sheikh. You're welcome, sir. Come to our Vacate. And also we have, sitting at the middle, is the number one citizen of Oyo State Muslims, the chairman of Oyo State Muslim community, well known, Alhaji Isiaq Kulisani. You're welcome, sir. We have among us a renowned legal practitioner, also a former Minister of Communication, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and presently is the Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council. I said Chancellor. I said Pro-Chancellor. That's what I said. So, I'm Chairman, Governing Council of the Umaya University, Uburu, University of Health and Science, Uburu, Ebonyi State. So you are welcome, sir. Barrister Abdurrahim Adebayo. You are welcome, sir. Shitu. You are welcome, sir. So, those are those who are present here. We have somebody from Ilorin Minister of Justice and somebody from Abuja who on absent now, and others from Lagos. So I won't be the only person who is going to steer this. I'm going to have a partner with me also. So, what are the Palestinian questions one may ask? Every time at the back of the newspaper or the foreign news or the internet, you see killings, bombing, especially of children and women in Gaza, gory stories and so many things like that. That saddens one. And when you go to the comment sections of those stories, you will find those who are for and those who are against. The killing of children and women and so many things like that. So, who is going to throw some light on these? As the chairman of the Muslim community of Oyo State, President of Alhaji Isiaq Kulisani. But before we go on, I would like us to identify ourselves at the media houses that we are representing. But for sure, I know my former imam, current general manager of Asabari FM in Shaki, Imam Nafi. Sorry. I think I have to do that. Yeah. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. So from the lady in the cap. Oh, welcome. How's the lady Hamza? From Fresh. Oh, okay, you're welcome. What of this pregnant that used to read your news? Mary, she has been back. Next. TVC News. You're welcome. Anybody here, Abi? Okay.
Because these are humiliation not only on the Palestinians but on the humanity at large. That is why, from our own end here in Africa, in Nigeria, a voice must be heard. Although international politics has actually silenced the African voice, but notwithstanding, there is need to hear the unheard. There is need for the unheard to make verbatim their position, regardless of the circumstance. But on that note, I want to emphasize, in the global development so far, Africa has been so central and has a distinct role to play that can never be substituted by others. I can remember very well, for some of us who are football fans, the final match between France, where the France held the cup, before this final World Cup, you will agree with me that half of the players in that match are Africans. So they reap the fruit of African to nurse their own agenda. So if Africa is being reaped, if our fruit is being harvested, why will our voice not be heard? And it is globally accepted that the voice of Nigeria is the voice of Africa. Although it may be a sleeping giant, but yet that giant is still there. That is why we feel and we know and believe that we need to make a voice, and a voice that should be heard, not only to be heard, should be known that this is our position. The massacre in October 7, so to say, by Israel, in deluding and deceiving the public, the world, as if there is an aggression from Hamas, as if Hamas has committed a genocide. They have committed an unprecedented massacre. The picture from the Israelites, from Israel. We have to rewrite that story on the ground that October 7 attack was not in vacuum. It has been an humiliation that has been compounded over years since 1948. If the Hamas should react, I will now consider that reaction as a whole, and you keep, or you think, or you consider irrelevant your genocide, your humiliation, your massacre since 1948 till date. Are the Palestinians not humans? Do they not deserve a right to live, most especially on their own land? If Adolf Hitler should be alive now, I think his position is justified on the ground that he thought and felt and he acted on it, that the crisis on the humanity, Israelites or the Jews or the Zionists are the causes. That is why in his own agenda he wants to exterminate all the Zionists. Even here in Africa, in Uganda, this president in Uganda that ran to Saudi Arabia, Idi Amin equally had the same agenda because of his experience with the Zionists. So if both could be alive, their position against Zionism and the Zionists is justified. That is why we feel we need to call the attention of the peace-loving Africans and the peace-loving countries of the world that what Zionist is dragging the world into is nothing but apartheid. What Zionists, what the Jews, what the Israelites are dragging the world into is lawlessness. Most especially when ICJ made a ruling in 29th of July declaring the occupation of the Jews, of the Zionists as illegal. This is documented, this is official, this is formal. This is a known position that the occupation of Palestine is illegal. But it is quite unfortunate that everything nowadays has been politicized. Instead of the world yielding to that, canvassing for the execution of the position of ICJ, the world turned a blind eye to the ruling. Why the Palestinian cause is being trivially taken like this? Are they not humans like us? Is injustice to one no more an injustice to all again? This is why we are making this conference. We want the world to know and want our voice to be heard. Our leaders, our scholars, our sage and our elders, who not only have traveled wide and far, who are also exposed and in their followership of the event, they will elucidate and emphasize on some salient things that we want the world to know and position that should be heard of us. This is the purpose of this conference, and we pray may Allah be with us. So here I'm making my submission. Our pressmen and some other public who are there following us should know summarily that injustice to one is injustice to all. Regardless of the color, regardless of the race, regardless of the faith, regardless of the ideology, humanity remains same and one when a cause in one angle also becomes a cause in another angle. That is when we can fight oppression. That is when we can confront repression. We hope until that this will deliver the expected substance. Thank you very much.
So that's Barrister Abroshide Atta, who is the convener of this conference on the Palestinian question. So he has done the synopsis of what we are here for. Now, without taking much of our time, but I have to tell you, I will leave before we finish this because I have a live program. So I've told the convener. So that if somebody comes to take up this stand. So what are the Palestinian questions? So that's where we left before we tell us the reasons why we are here. So as I've said, the chairman of Muslim community in Oyo State is going to do that for us. In person for Alhaji Isiakunle Sani. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen of the press, let me once again welcome you to this press briefing, which is meant to ventilate our strong opinion about the imposition of Zionism, Zionists, and occupation of the land of the Palestinians. Let me first and foremost let you know that there is a lot of misconception, especially in this part of the world, about the issue of Palestine. A lot of people believe that, very wrongly, that it was a question of Muslims even versus Christians. Whereas the Jews or the Zionists themselves don't even want to hear anything about Christianity. In fact, Muslims are more accommodating of Christians than the Jews. A lot of you can go on Google and see the kind of humiliation that Christians suffer when they go for pilgrimage right now in Israel. I have seen so many cases of our Christian chaps wanting to go there for evangelization. And they were arrested and tortured by the Jews. And as we are talking here now, 80% of the Zionist Jews in Israel, they don't know anything about Jesus. The only thing they have heard was there was someone called Jesus who was being imposed as the Messiah. As far as Jews are concerned, the Messiah has not come. Whereas the Muslims accepted that Jesus was Messiah, except that the meaning and interpretation of the word Messiah is different. There's a different word of difference between our interpretation and what the Christians, quote and unquote, in Nigeria think about Messiahship. And if you go to the dictionary meaning of Messiah, it's somebody who is anointed with oil. That's just the meaning. It doesn't mean that the Messiah means somebody who is going to save the world or who is going to judge the world, as it were. An average Christian in Nigeria will be supporting the Jews against the Palestinians, forgetting that there are quite a number of Christians in Palestine who are being harassed, tormented,
and who are also Arabs.
Who are Arabs, and they are Christians. The Jews don't want to hear anything about Christianity. So what is going on there is not a religious war at all. It is just a coincidence that majority of the Palestinians are Muslims. But among them we have a lot of Christians. You have churches in Palestine. And during this war, a lot of churches were razed by the Jews. They destroyed them because they don't want to hear anything about Christianity. In fact, they are more at home with Muslims than Jews. I saw a recording very recently that they had some Jews right in Palestine before this war about Christianity. They said the Christians are worshiping a human being. That is just a human being, the son of a carpenter. These are a few of the Jews who even know there is somebody like Jesus. There are quite a number of them who don't even know the word Jesus. They have never heard it. Talk less of Mary or what have you. So I want to understand this, that it is not a religious issue. If Muslims are concerned, it is because majority of the Palestinians are Muslims. And there are quite a number of them also that are not even Muslims or Christians in Palestine. They are just atheists, but they are human beings. They have a right to live. And there are also quite a number of people who believe that that land is the promised land. So the Jews have a right to occupy there. If you go into the scriptures, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, the Jews are they were loved by the Almighty God, but they have always misbehaved. They have always rebelled against God, and that is why they killed virtually all the prophets, including Jesus himself, that said, according to the Bible, that he rose at the third day or what have you. But they killed him. The Jews killed him. He was not killed by Muslims. Whether he rose on the third day or not, or crucified or not, is not the issue now. But those who killed him were Jews. And if Jesus comes today again, the Jews are prepared even to kill him again a second time. So the issue at stake has nothing to do with Islam or Christianity, or it has to do with the issue of humanity. Now, I have told you, the Jews, because of their rebellion, God sent them away from that land. Over 2,000 years. God, because of their rebellion, sent them away. And they find their way to different parts of the world, especially in Europe. So you have Arabian Jews, you have Russian Jews, you have German Jews, Polish Jews, American Jews. They are just everywhere. But just because of this, their rebellion, and Allah gave them a lot of, the Quran even said it, that Allah, gave them a lot of brain, intelligence, wisdom, and all the whatnot. But they used the wisdom to create all the problems we have in the world. What was their sin before Hitler decided to kill them during the so-called Holocaust? They were doing all sorts of gambling. They created prostitution, all the evils of this world. If it will bring money, that was what the Jews were doing. And he decided what they called the Nazis when they took over power in 1933 in Germany. When Hitler took over in 1933, he decided not only to kill the Jews in Germany, but all over Europe. And at that time, from what we had, maybe about 50% of them were in Poland, and that was where it started. And can you imagine that? Though a lot of narratives believe that it was exaggerated, that they were able to slaughter 6 million Jews. People believe probably they were not more than 1 or 2 million. It was exaggerated by the Jews themselves, because they own, the communication instruments in the world. Washington Post, New York Times, they are all owned by the Jews. So they can manipulate history and all the world. But even if they were 500,000, it is not a joke to kill 500,000 people at a time. Talk less of maybe they were up to 2 or 3 million. They were put in gas chambers and killed. But after that Holocaust, it was believed that they started getting sympathies because of the way they were exterminated. In fact, it's not possible to exterminate all of them. Some still survived. So what do we do about those who survived? In fact, the first place they wanted to take them to was Ethiopia here in Africa. But one thing led to the other. They decided to take them to what they believe was the original home. But they are nobody. They are the Palestinians here now. They have nothing to do with the Jews that were exterminated. So you cannot say, this is their land, let them go and occupy it. And if need be, the Palestinians at that time would have resisted when they were brought there in 1917, that we don't want Jews on our land. But because they are very humanistic, they have a lot of sympathy for them, and so they welcomed them with open hands. It was not supposed to be that they were going there to have their own state, so to say. It was just a place to, allow them to exist pari passu with the owners of the land, who are the Palestinian Arabs. But international politics came about. They wanted to really give the Zionists, because they now, when we talk about Israelis or Jews, there are Jews all over the world today who does not believe that the Israelis are supposed to have a state of Israel in Palestine. They have their own movements campaigning against this ideology. But the West, let me put it that way, America and British and France and the rest of them, we believe seriously that they actually wanted to create a state of Israel to create a problem for the Arabs. They want to put a problem within them. And then you imagine today, because they created that state for the Jews who ran away from France, from Germany, from Poland, from America and whatnot, to establish themselves in the so-called Zionist state of Israel. And you discover that since that time, there had been so many resolutions from the United Nations. I think at the last time maybe it was 640 something resolutions. Trying to curtail the excesses of the Jews, their killings, their oppression, repression of those who own the land. But the way the United Nations was formulated, which still today, because maybe 1945 when they created, it was after the Second World War, after this Holocaust that they decided to create the state of, the United Nations. So what is united about United Nations today? Except that a few countries are superintending over the whole world. Can you imagine if in Nigeria we decided that if an Igbo man is assaulted, an Hausa man is assaulted, if people in Ibadan just say no, those people cannot get justice, and they won't get it. If an Igbo man is killed, if his land is taken over by somebody else, and he goes and the United Nations, everybody in Nigeria votes. If Ibadan, Abeokuta and Osogbo people just say no, that is the end. The oppression continues. And because they want to protect the state of Israel, you'll be wondering if anything touches Israel, except now that there's a lot of excesses in the hands of Netanyahu and his co-conspirators and murderers. As you find countries like France, a few countries, Scotland and so on, saying they don't want to have anything to do with the state of Israel because they have committed so much atrocities, killings, raping, and all the whatnot since the October 7 incident. But even now, anytime the only country that has stood up against the oppression of the Palestinians today is Iran. But anytime Iran threatens to do something, in fact, can you imagine now, Israel has so many nuclear warheads. Iran wants to have a few. And the so-called, what's the name of the organization in charge of nuclear, whatever they call them, they will now rise and say, no, you cannot have. Can you imagine that? My enemy is allowed to have guns. And I just want to have one, just one. And they say no. What type of justice is that? So I believe that the way in which the United Nations is going, there will be a breakup. It may not be now, it may not be in our lifetime, but that United Nations will break. The whole body, 175 nations will vote that what is happening in Palestine now is genocide, and Israel should be stopped. Nobody should sell arms to them, and America will say no, and that is the end. It cannot continue like that. Because of this, they have the non-allied nations. They have the Commonwealth. All these were formed to find, a kind of leverage for people who are being oppressed by America and Britain. To mention but just a few of these countries. But they are not strong enough. There just have to be a break. Like what is happening in BRICS now, that is the economic one. How can Naira, 1,600 Naira be equivalent to $1? And the fraud is that now, if I want to eat, and I want to do like a big man, maybe I will spend 3,000 Naira in a buka to feed myself, and I will bury food. But if I want to eat the same way in US now, I will spend like $100. So how much is $100? In the same world, they say my Naira 1,000 something is equal to $1. But this Naira I can use just 2,000 Naira to feed myself, and I'll be comfortable if I go to Mama Put there, or even go to a restaurant. The worst case, I spend 3,000. But the same food I want to eat in America will cost me 100 something thousand. So that is economic injustice, and the world have seen it. Not that alone, because Iran is well opposed to whatever is happening in Israel, and they said Israel must be destroyed. They will now put a lot of economic sanctions. They should not buy the oil of Iran. They should not buy their carpets. These are things that they have, that they push into the international market. And because of that, they now think about BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And others are joining. Saudi is joining now. They are going to have a conference in October. And I read yesterday that the end of the economic, can we say, oppression of the world by America is on the way out. America itself will be in trouble. And in any case, Allah has created so many empires. The Persian Empire, the British Empire, where are all of them? Roman Empire, they are all gone. So the American Empire will go. And they always go when they commit excess, and God is no more interested in what they are doing, that the oppression is too much. Now, Iran now is not afraid, because they can now sell their oil to China and take yuan. China can sell to them, China can sell to them and take yuan, and they can sell to them and take their riyal. The same thing with other countries of the world. And you wonder, I don't want to forget that, why is South Africa one of the countries that has stood behind the state of Palestine? It is because the same oppression that is going to the Palestinians is what they suffered under apartheid. They were being discriminated, they were killed, they were maimed, everything happened to them. So when they are now free and out of the gulag of their oppressors, why should they now support those who are oppressing the Palestinians? So the issue of which my brother is going to discuss, it was South Africa that took Israel to court. And maybe I've been told that my time is up.
Did anybody tell you that? You still have 3 minutes.
So, it was South Africa that went out of their way and went to court, the International Court of Justice. Initially, they went for the International Court of Justice to rule that genocide was being committed. At the end of the day, they have accepted that the state of Palestine should be a state within a state. In any case, Iran does not accept that. As far as Iran is concerned, they want Israel gone because they don't have any reason to be there. What happened when Nigerians went to Ghana and they were oppressing the Ghanaians? That's why we have Ghana must go. Maybe people like you are not born at that time, when they sent Nigerians out of Ghana.
I was a victim.
He was a victim. He was born in Ghana.
I was born in Ghana.
It was the excesses of Nigerians there. And you see what happened. What is xenophobic, or what do you call it? The one that happened to the Igbos in South Africa. If they are saying Nigerians just accept Nigeria, well, it was the Igbos. They have made money in South Africa. They will now go and find a beautiful lady already married to a South African whose husband is just giving him peanuts. They have made their money. They will go and buy a car for the lady. The lady will leave the husband and come to her. They started doing all this. And they said, no, we can't take it again. And they started killing Nigerians. Don't let us say Igbos this time around. But definitely it was the Igbos. The same thing happened in Malaysia, if not because Nigerian governments, came in. The same thing our Igbo brothers were doing there. So the excess is being perpetrated now against the Palestinians for no just cause, against all rules of engagement, of war engagement, of decency. In Islam, in a war, you are not supposed to kill children. You are not supposed to kill women. You are not supposed to kill non-combatants. Even trees, under Islamic law, you are not supposed to touch it. Trees that you believe that it doesn't have any existence. Animals. Somebody has sheep and so on, then say because there is war, then you want to kill the goats and sheep and cows and so on. It's not allowed. It's not allowed within Islam, and I think generally he will tell us whether it's allowed within the international law for you to just decide to face a building, kill the children, kill the women, kill everybody. Why are they raising the whole of Gaza? Why? They will tell you that they are looking for Hamas, and we all know how many Hamas have they killed. It is the common people that have been killed for no just cause. And one reason again which the old dog is aware is that Netanyahu believes that if the war ends today, the next day he will be out of that office. So he doesn't care how many millions of people are killed for him to remain in office, because they know that he has not performed as the prime minister of that country. And he's so bold, so courageous, so irresponsible that he even talks against America that is giving them money and arms. You know what can the Americans do? Because he knows Jews are controlling the economy of the United States of America. No president in America is prepared to say the truth except the common people. You see what is going on in the universities. Hundreds of thousands, in fact some universities were closed down because of their support for the people who are supporting the Palestinians in the universities. They are not Arabs, they are not Muslims, they are humanists who see on television how people are being slaughtered on a daily basis. So I'm told that my time is up. If there's room for question and so on and answer, maybe I will be able to add one or two things. Thank you very much. God bless you.
So, thank you for throwing light on that. I will move on to the next item on the ICJ rulings. The International Court of Justice has ruled against this genocide and those inhumane actions of the Zionists. So the person who is going to do that is versed in the field, our former Minister of Communication and the President Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council, David Umaya, University of Health and Science, Uburu, Ebonyi State, in person of Barrister Abdurrahim Adebayo Shetu. One thing, one of our sons used to tell us that if you get court injunction, it remains how to enforce it. This man that started Complete Football, what's the name? No. No, not Oba Igbena. Not Oba Igbena. He's doing Obasi, something Obasi. He was doing digest. Something digest, Sussex digest too. Sonny Oba Igbena or something. He had a problem with late Ojukwu. So Ojukwu got the court injunction. The man wrote the article himself that just one morning they were going to the press and they just say that they are policemen, they are bulldozers, they are everything. Somebody just locked their gate and Ojukwu just walk in. Then I've got the court injunction. So, and you are not paying me, you are owing me. He said, we never forget that experience. Chief Lanwaju Adepoju of blessed memory said that there was something, it was some white men were producing his away then they didn't pay him. Then he got a court injunction too. Then he went to into the white man's office. The man was trying to cajole him like United Nations. They said, look, I will tell you, I have tribal mark in my cheeks. I will tell you I'm a bounty, but we are warlords. Then he said he held the white man on his collar. The man was pinkish on his note. He was shaking. And he just counted the money and gave him immediately. So if there's no body or a body that can, enforce the judgment. It's Ojeagbesi, thank you very much. So I will hand over the mic to Barrister Abdurrahim Adebayo Shitu, and I will be taking my leave, and I want to introduce Alhaji Tajuddin. He's going to be the MC standing here to be doing the moderation. I'm sorry, I have to take my leave. I take my bow. Tajuddin Alabedi. You are welcome. So he's going to be here. So after this, thank you very much.
I want to say a very big welcome to each and every one of us, particularly members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm. I want to thank you for answering our call to this all-important press conference. Let me also thank my junior brother, Isiaka Akamu, Omo Ologbe. Both of us are orphans now, but I think I've been senior orphan. I thank him for his expose on the issue of the Palestinian question. Essentially, there are two main questions about Palestine. Number one, is Palestine not supposed to be an independent state, independent of intrusion from outside? I am happy we are talking to members of the press who are supposed to be research survey. Palestine had always been an independent country before the Israeli issue arose. They were stripped of their independence when Israel was imposed on them.
In 1948.
In 1948. Before 1948, Palestine had been an independent country. Suddenly, the Western world brought Israelis who before they never had a state of their own. You can now imagine a situation where Nigeria, which had been independent from 1963, would suddenly become stateless. And then you have those who never had any state, independent state, whether around Palestine or any other place, now coming to establish their own independence in the land of the Palestinians, because the all-powerful America and the West decided to usurp the properties of the Palestinians. Number two, over the years, the idea of the international community had been a two-state situation. State of Palestine, state of Israel. But the intruders, the strangers, say we will be an independent country. But these people we met on ground must no more be independent. I'm happy with all Yorubas. In the Yoruba language, among Powe and Ejekafi Ororura Wawo. Everybody, for instance, who has, I'm from Shaki, I have a house in Shaki, I have in Ibadan. You can imagine suddenly somebody is coming to say, you can no more be a house owner in Shaki or in Ibadan. You can no more stay where you are. For you to move out or stay in, my albeit strange police force must look over whatever you are doing. Because in Palestine, as of today, while a Palestinian cannot go into any part of Israel without visa, without authorization, the Israeli police can any fucking time come into Palestine, direct your movement, direct yours. In fact, your security, your own police must be subservient to the Israeli police. So the Israelis are saying, no, we will never allow this state, which previously existed before we came, to continue to remain an independent country. We're all human beings. I want to quickly refer to a statement made by our own Femi Fani-Kayode, a lawyer and former Minister of Aviation. He said, and I quote him, he said, "If the people of my country, Nigeria, had been subjected to the barbarity that Gaza has been subjected to by any foreign power and occupation force, we, that is we Nigerians, would have fought an unending war, and we would have fought them into the sea, because it is human nature to do so. That is, to resist oppression, to resist marginalization, to resist occupation." Nigeria would have done the same thing. As of today, like it has been said, South Africa, which is not a non-Muslim country, has decided to go to court to challenge Israel in their barbarity, in their nefarious activities, in their inhumanity against the people of Gaza. ICJ, International Court of Justice, is like our Supreme Court in Nigeria. ICJ is the court for the whole world. ICJ has, received several petitions against Israel. There's no single Arab in ICJ. Among the judges there, no single Arab. I'm sure there's no single Muslim there. If there are, there will be minority. But the judgments of ICJ has always been overwhelmingly in support of giving justice to the Palestinian people. You cannot imagine the accused and the defeated in court saying, "I don't respect the judgment," and getting away with it. Just like in the recent case in Nigeria, the Supreme Court said local governments must have autonomy. And you have a governor saying that there's no country in the world with 3 tiers of government. In those places where there is no 3 tiers of government, is it their constitution we are using in Nigeria? Obviously not. The Nigerian constitution says there must be 3 tiers of government. And once our constitution says that, it must be binding on all. The problem today really is not much about Israeli, but about America, United States of America. In Ukraine, Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine is a very small country. Without support of the United States of America, Russia would have taken over Ukraine. But America gave Ukraine all the support in the name of fighting for justice for the people of Ukraine. In one breath, they are fighting to support the oppressed in Ukraine. In the other breath, where wars, atrocities are being committed, America is turning its eyes off it and really supporting the oppressed. You can then imagine the double standards and the hypocrisy of the United States and of the entire Western world. Thank God, some countries in the West are now saying no. Enough of these very shameful double standards. I am going to send a number of, I've taken phone numbers of some of you who agree to put your numbers here. I'm going to send you a number of WhatsApp messages which depict clearly the atrocities and the double standard. If not for the fact that Israel was involved, if it had been Nigeria doing what Israel has been doing, America would have overrun Nigeria by now. They would have overrun us. In fact, Nigeria dares not say that what the ICJ has done, they will not respect. Nigeria cannot do it. But here we are. Here we are. Almighty America. They are the one supporting the oppression there, and they must take full responsibility about that. I as a Muslim, I believe there's nothing that God cannot do. There have been more powerful nations in the past which have fallen because of their atrocities and because of their double standards. I urge the whole people of conscience to keep praying for the oppressed. It is common sense that Yoruba ikati obase niwani oba mange. I think that's correct.
Yes.
If you say some people invaded, Israel on October 6 or whatever.
October 7.
October 7. Ṣé àwọn tó invade ilẹ̀ ń pa làwọn ọmọdé tẹ̀ ń pa? Làwọn obìnrin tẹ̀ ń pa? I mean, indiscriminate bombing of communities in Palestine. I have met several, in fact, there used to be a Palestinian minister who was a woman, who was minister in Palestine, a Christian.
Yes.
I
remember.
A Christian minister, female minister of Palestine. He was Minister of Foreign Affairs. Ashrawi, Hannah and Ashrawi. He was an Arab, she was an Arab, a Christian, and minister in Palestine. That is to show you that there is a difference between Muslims and Palestinian Arabs. It is not everybody in Palestine who is a Muslim. There are Muslims and there are Christians. And that is why there are churches and there are mosques. Again, on the issue of Jews and what's the title? They are
Zionists.
And Zionism. I think each of us should go and check the meanings. These are two different things. It's not every Israeli that is also a Zionist. Zionism is about their religion. There are Israelis who are also Muslims, even though they are very few. Very few. But they are also Muslims. So Zionism is the policy of the Israelis are the most important race in the world. And every other tribe must kowtow to the wishes and sovereignty of Israelis against all others. So it is this supremacist, tendency by Israelis which make their policies abhorrent to humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want us to see what is happening in Israel, between Israel and Palestine as a religious war. It is not a religious war. It is racism, pure and simple. And like I said, if we compare the Supreme Court of Nigeria, compare it with ICJ. ICJ gives a judgment. Nobody is supposed to make nonsense of the judgment of an international court, but it is happening because of Almighty America. So my prayer is that in our lifetime, succor should come. And if you look at the Palestinians, I think one thing we must commend about them, despite the Holocaust against Palestine now, despite their atrocities, they have strength of character. Their mind is as steadfast,
very firm,
and as firm as anything you can think of, because they know that God is the God of justice and he would impose justice on the Israelis whether they like it or not. Bombings, destruction of properties, and all of these are unacceptable and act against natural justice as espoused by the International Court of Justice. We must all condemn it, and we want to appeal to members of the press who are present here to try and dig into these stories to get the conscience of humanity to see the double standard that America is practicing, particularly when you compare the scenario in Russia versus Ukraine and then you compare it with what is happening between the Israelis. Why would the same America support the oppressor in one place and make support against the oppressor in another? May God bless all of you. I hope we will have questions so that issues which we have not been able to touch in our discussions, we can try to look at them and bring our comments on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That decided over the case of Nigeria and Cameroon with regard to Vacate, and there was an enforceability of that. Nigeria had to cede part of its sovereign land to Cameroon. Now, much of Vacate belongs to Cameroon now. Only a small part belongs to Nigeria. But when it comes to areas where the so-called superpowers have vested interest, enforceability of the rulings become very difficult. And as we know, the way the United Nations is structured, the Security Council is supposed to be the enforcing arm of the executive arm, more like the executive arm, to execute the decisions of the International Court of Justice. But we know the way the Security Council works. Once they raise a veto by any of the 5 veto-wielding superpowers, then they can't proceed with any decision. We remember the issue of the ceasefire recently. How many times did Algeria and some other countries lay before the Security Council plans for ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinians, and the people in Gaza and Hamas? But we know what happened. Until when America got interested, that was when the plan for ceasefire became adopted by the Security Council. So a whole lot of things are wrong. The global system is not structured for the purpose of security and peace, even though the United Nations claims to be a body to enforce global peace and security. But we know they only do this more in breach rather than in reality. So before at this point, we want to invite the director of Al-Quds Foundation, Barrister Abdurashid, to give us some highlights about public expectations. What we expect, what the public expects from the media, and how should we proceed from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All protocols observed. As just a rider to what has been earlier said by our scholars, our elders and leaders, from the ICJ ruling, what is the public expectation? The public expect nothing than freedom and justice. Freedom and justice. Justice to the Palestinians. Freedom to the Palestinians on their land, and also to have their peace. So that justice in quotes, you can imagine a place that was restricted, their ear was restricted, bombarded, their sea, even the amount of gas to be used, their electricity cut off, water supply disconnected, even there is no passage of foods and medicine for their sick. So this is homicide, this is genocide, this is humiliation. The expectation of the public is justice and freedom. But the question is, when will our enough be enough in the question of the Palestinians? The public is after justice. But if justice cannot be taken with ease, I think the world should be able to leverage that justice in their different capacity. For instance, boycott. There is BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanction. If the state of Israel will not be sanctioned by United Nations, but all peace-loving countries of the world should sanction Israel. How? They can cut off their diplomatic ties, call back home the ambassadors, refuse to import from Israel and also to export onto them, denied their country's visa to any Israel and Israeli-oriented establishment. These are the public expectations. This is how we feel the judgment or the justice or the freedom could be enforced. If the ICJ ruling should be thrown into dustbin, could be disregarded, it means Israel of that disregard is calling into anarchy. And it is a policy that the might is right. So in an avoidance of making this world anarchical, there is need for an enforcement. And if the United Nations cannot do that, the peace-loving countries of the world should embark on, within their own limitation and strength, do something on it. The world cannot be passive. Enough is enough. Not only that, there may be a question in Nigerian context that we have our own internal crisis. There is insecurity, there is Boko Haram, there is fuel scarcity, there is what do you call it? This economic inflation. There is inflation. Then why should Palestinian issue be our concern? Yes, Palestinian issue should be our concern because they are equally human beings. We need to cast our mind to the fact that in the time when Liberia was in crisis during Samuel Doe, Nigeria, then we had our internal crisis. But regardless of that crisis, we went ahead to rescue Liberia from oppression of Samuel Doe. Not only that, their neighboring country to Liberia is Syria alone. Nigeria, we went to Syria alone. Then we had our internal crisis. And most recently, even in Gambia, Yahya Jammeh crisis in Gambia, when he refused to leave the throne after he has been voted out by Laurent Gbagbo, I don't remember. Yes. We had is very much recent. We have our internal crisis, but Nigeria still went to Gambia to rescue Gambians. So why is it that what is good for the Jews is not for the Ganda? Why is it when it comes to the matter of Palestine, we now turn our eyes against that? So we urge Nigerian government, as well as all peace-loving countries of the world, to act. Humanity is humanity. We are seeing a world full of humans without humanity. How continuous would that be? Our world is full of humans, but where is our humanity? Our shared humanity. So this is our concern. The public, within our individual strength, capacity, as an establishment, as a state, as a stakeholder, we need to act. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. With regards to the public expectations, especially what we want to see is a situation whereby justice is served to those who need it, and that we live in a world that is just and fair and equitable to all stakeholders. Now, before I will call on our respected Sheikh, Dr. Bilal, I want to look at some talking points for the media, because looking at the media space, Now, the Nigerian media, they just basically report the happenings, copy and paste, and maybe some little context. Now, there is the need for Nigerian media to do more than what we are doing. There are a number of talking points, even from what our respected elders have mentioned and what we all know. For example, it is glaring, it is obvious to all that the global system is unfair, it's not balanced, it's not just. So we can use Palestinian case as a case study, so to say, for us to probe into to interrogate the issue of the world order, the way the global system works. So, number two, international courts, particularly ICJ and ICC. So many people, many stakeholders, analysts across the world have always pointed out this fact that these courts are only useful when they have rulings against the weak. But when the interests of the big powers are affected, then everywhere goes silent. Now, how can we have a sane world, a truly free world, a just world, when justice is only selective with regards to who gets probed, who gets scrutinized, and so on? Number three, the US is a key stakeholder when it comes to the issue of Israel-Palestine crisis. Now, but the US is a conflicted arbiter. It projects the image of an arbiter. But the US is a conflicted arbiter. Conflicted in the sense that it has vested interest. The US continues to supply arms to Israel. On the other hand, it run into billions, tens of billions of dollars of arms that are supplied to Israel almost on an annual basis. Then it will now promise the Palestinians, the Gazans particularly, hundreds of millions of dollars of humanitarian aid. So you supply arms to kill these people in billions. You now send some few hundreds of millions to pacify those who are being killed on a daily basis. So the issue of the US is not bigger than the world. The US is not equivalent to the world. The world is bigger than the US. Now, and the world seems to be fearful of the US because they have put that fear in us. So once you talk against them, then there must be some consequences. But like one of our elders here has said, every of these empires that have dominated the world, at one point or the other, they all went into ashes. Is it not? Where is Roman Empire today? Where is Persian Empire today? Even for us as Muslims, where is that golden Islamic era? Where is it today? Gone. In India, they have Chinese, Koreans, they have their own empires of the past. Japanese empire, where are they today? So meaning that there must be a time when these giants too will have to kiss the dust. Now, the fourth one, that the first of the talking point that I feel the media in Nigeria, we need to shed their light on, is the issue of international law and international humanitarian law, rather. Now, even in war, international law, provides for how the war should be governed, both in peacetime and wartime. So meaning that even wars have rules, is it not? Yes. Wars have rules. But what we are seeing today is a situation where we now have the opposite. And the world cannot do much to take care of this. Now, number 5, the talking point number 5. Now, when you talk about what is happening in Palestine, is it really a war? Is it a war between two countries? Palestine is not a state. It's not a sovereign country. We all know that, Abi. Even their tax is collected by Israel. They don't have their own, they have no standing army. You know, before you could say, okay, this is a state, there must be a territory, there must be a government, there must be, what's it called, a standing army to protect your sovereign integrity and so on. So all of these are not completed. So Palestine, as we have it today, is still under the direct occupation of Israel. So in that wise, we can't talk about war. It's not like Ukraine versus Russia. So that's why today we can't talk about Palestinian army the way you talk about IDF. You know IDF, Israel Defense Force. Is there an equivalent of that on the side of the Palestinians? So what we have, the Hamas, Islamic Jihad, they are more like militants. who just resistance, who just took it upon themselves to see how they can defend their people. That's all. So we can't talk about a war. So that's why, for example, Al Jazeera and some other media outlets will report it as Israel's war on Gaza, rather. It won't be like Israeli-Palestine war, the way you talk about Russia-Ukraine war. So it's Israel's war. Israel sees it as war. But to the Palestinians, is it war? Who is the commander-in-chief of the Palestinians? Who is the commander-in-chief of the Palestinians? Do they have, who is the head of army? Who is the head of navy? No navy, no army, no air force, no national guard.
Not because they don't want.
Yeah.
Because Israel has decided that they must not have.
So we can't talk about, so in reporting the situation there, we can't be talking about war in the context of war between two countries. So what we have is not war, it's straightforward or in case of operation. Now, again, another area, number 6, is that the Nigerian media, like I said, what we do more in Nigeria is just garbage in, garbage out. What international media reports, we just give a little context. Now, we know that recently there was a clamor by some countries, Ireland, Norway, and some other countries, for Palestine to be recognized as a state. So this is another issue that I feel the media needs to shed its light on, because why is it difficult? Everybody talks about the two-state solution, right, from 1948. Then there was the Oslo Accord, 1993. So why is it difficult? Oslo was 31 years ago, was it not? Yeah. Now, the first attempt by UN in 1948 was how many years ago? 76 years ago. So why is it difficult for the international community to enforce the idea, their own preferred option of a two-state solution, almost 80 years after? Now, and the last of the talking points that I will wish that the Nigerian media provide some context to, do some serious research on, is that when you look at the way Israel operates, it operates with high degree of impunity. You know, impunity is a situation whereby you do anything and you fear no consequence, for you get away with it. So, and even maybe some of us who watch international conferences at the United Nations, the immediate past Israelis ambassador to the UN was shredding the UN Charter. Let's say I'm addressing the UN now. Within the complex UN building, it was addressing the General Assembly. At the podium, it brought out a shredder and a copy of the UN Charter. And he put the UN Charter inside the shredder. Shame on you. He was telling all the other countries of the world, shame on you. You are shredding. It was now demonstrating that you are shredding by not supporting Israel unconditionally, that they were shredding the UN Charter. That is the charter that, like the Constitution, you know, the charter is like the Constitution for the United Nations. So it's like somebody standing before, let's say, a senator, standing at the National Assembly, or a member of the House of Representatives, the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly, which should be the symbol of the authority, of sovereignty of the country. He now brings out, maybe he's speaking about his own small constituency, maybe Ibadan North. I'm just giving that as an example. You can just imagine, let's say a rep from this area goes to the National Assembly, he brings out the shredder and a copy of the Constitution, and you now, maybe because of some differences, maybe they say that other parts of the country are not supporting their own cause. Now, shame on all of you. Now, what you've done is like shredding the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He now puts a copy of the Constitution in the shredder. How are we going to respond? Thank you, well done. Or it will be seen as a felon, somebody who will be taken as an enemy of the state. So now, Israel's impunity, for how long will it last? When should it end? So I have to go this far because the next speaker, our Dr. Bilal Shitu, is going to speak in Arabic. So for the purpose of part of our audience that only understand that language, we want to reach a wider audience. So that's why we are trying to put all of this together so that in his own last presentation, some of these issues can be captured. After that, we are going to use the stage for the media to exchange and thoughts with the speakers. Thank you, sir.
اللقاء الصحفي نظمه مؤسسة القدس في نيجيريا تضامنا مع قضية فلسطين لإعطائهم الحرية الكاملة على أرضهم المكتسبة منذ ما يقرب 76 سنة، وأن ما يحدث منذ 7 أكتوبر الذي يظنه البعض أنه إجرام أو مخالفة من حماس إنما هو رد فعل لما كان منذ ما يقرب أكثر من 76,948 حيث اكتسبوا أرضهم وكانوا يعاملونهم معاملة سيئة ضد الإنسانية. فما حدث في أكتوبر 7 أكتوبر يعتبر رد فعل من الفلسطينيين، فليس أنهم تجاوزوا الحد بل دفاع عن النفس. والذين تكلموا قبلي باللغة الإنجليزية ابتداء من رئيس الأمة الإسلامية في ولاية أويو الشيخ إسحاق كوليساني تكلم عن تاريخ فلسطين قبل الاحتلال وكيف كانت لهم حرية كاملة، لهم حكومة، لكن عندما جاء صهاينة بالتعاون مع القوى العالمية أخذوا حقهم ومنعوهم من الاستمرار في الحكومة. وذكر ما حدث لليهود في العالم حيث يتمثلون أنهم مظلومون، وبعض الدول احتضنهم مثل روسيا وبعض الدول، لكن كلهم لا يريدون أن يكون معهم لمعرفة بهم بأنهم ليسوا إنسانية، ليس عندهم إنسانية في معاملة الناس، ولذلك حاولوا أن يجعلوا لهم مكانا غير الأماكن الذي كانوا يطلبونه من هؤلاء، وجاءوا إلى فلسطين. وبما أن المسلمين معاملتهم معاملة إنسانية هم الذين احتضنوهم، لكن الآن أصبحوا جرذومة في الشرق الأوسط. فلذلك اللقاء الصحفي الذي نظمه مؤسسة القدس في نيجيريا يريدون من عامة الناس أن يعرفوا أن ما حدث للفلسطينيين إنما ظلم من العالم كله ومن جميع قوات العالم. فالنظام الموجود في العالم الآن أن الحق للقوي، فالضعيف ليس له حق، وهذا ضد الحقوق الإنسانية الذي يدعونه في كل وقت. أنا حقوق الإنسان أين حقوق الإنسان؟ يعني الإبادة الجماعية الذي يحدث منذ 7 أكتوبر وقبل 7 أكتوبر إنما إبادة جماعية، يقتلون الأطفال، يحرمون حقوقهم، قطعوا الكهرباء، ليس فيه يعني قوام الحياة. فاليوم إخواننا الذين تكلموا والمهامي الأخ عبد الرحيم شيس ذكر أن المحكمة الدولية الآن أصدرت أن ما يحدث في فلسطين إنما هو ظلم ولا بد للعالم أن يعطيه حريتهم، لكن هذا كلام لم ينفذ بعد. فماذا ننتسب من العالم ومن عوام الناس وجميع القوى الدولية، فأحرار الناس علينا يتضامنون مع الفلسطينيين يطلبوا، وغير المسلمين كلهم مع الفلسطينيين الآن، لأنما رأوا بأعينهم، رأوا أن هذا ظلم لإخواننا في فلسطين. فهو يتكلم وجاء بأمثلة أن أحيانا يصدرون الحكم لكن التنفيذ يبقى يعني على طاولة لا ينفذونه. والجنوب أفريقيا والجزائر هم أول من قدم قضية فلسطين في المحكمة الدولية حتى يؤتونهم حريتهم الكاملة. ومما ذكر رئيس القدس بسؤال ما هو مسؤوليات العامة في أمر فلسطين، فهو لنا يؤكد لنا أنه لا بد من تضامن معهم بمقاطعة جميع منتجات اليهود والصهاينة منتجاتهم، وكذلك قتل العلاقة الدولية الدبلوماسية مع إسرائيليين يعني صهاينة اليهود. طلب من العامة أن نتضامن مع فلسطينيين ليعطوا حقوقهم كاملة في أن يكون لهم دولة مستقلة، فقد كانوا من قبل دولة مستقلة يديرون بأنفسهم حتى جاء الاحتلال منذ جاء ومنعهم حقوقهم، لا يتم حرية، ليس لهم الأمن، يعني الآن أصبحوا مظلومين، وهذا على مرأى من العالم. ثم ذكر أن ما يحدث في فلسطين يعني لا يماثل ما يحدث في أوكران وروسيا، بل بخار، لأن دولة مع دولة. أما فلسطين ليس لهم دولة، ليس لهم حكومة الآن، وحماس إنما مجرد يحاولون دفاع عن النفس. وهم الآن لا بد من العالم وجميع أحرار أن يتضامن معهم وأن يستنكروا على إسرائيلي أو يهود أو صهاينة كما نقول، لأن إسرائيلي منذ أن بدأوا مخالفته مع الله سبحانه وتعالى طردوا وتاهوا في الأرض، لكن جاءوا إلى الشرق الأوسط الآن حتى أصبحوا جرذومة للعالم. فلا بد من انسكار ما يحدث منهم ونقاطع العلاقات معهم حتى يرى العالم أن لا بد من إعطاء فلسطينيين حكومة مستقلة يديرون بأنفسهم ولا يكون هناك تدخل. وكذلك ذكروا أن إيران الآن يحاول أن يساعد إخواننا في فلسطين بما يملك من قوة، وعلى الرغم أن الدولة العالمية القوى العالمية لا يسمحون لإيران أن يكون له مثل ما له ومثل ما لإسرائيليين في بعض القوة وما يكون من الأسلحة النووية. هذا ظلم آخر، لأنه الآن يريدون أن يسيطروا على العالم وليس لأحد يتكلم وليس لأحد أن يكون له حرية كاملة. فنرجو من المستمعين وجميع أحرار العالم أن يتضامنوا مع إخواننا في فلسطين حتى تكون لهم حرية كاملة. فأخيرا المقاطعة التي ذكر رئيس القدس هي مهم جدا، وخاصة لجميع المسلمين أن يقاتلوا جميع منتجات اليهود، منتجات الصهاينة يعني في بكل أشكاله، وهذا موجود الناس عرفوه. ودولة نيجيريا كذلك نريد منهم أن يكون لهم دور، وخاصة في على مستوى الحكومة أن يكون لهم دور في استنكار وتضامن مع فلسطين، لأن نيجيريا من قبل كان محتلة ثم أخذ الاستقرار وهو الآن يعني يمارس دولته بنفسه. وهذا ما نريد من الصحفيين كذلك أن يدرسوا الموضوع بجد، لأن بعض الصحفيين يعني يأتون بالأخبار فقط وليس لهم تعليق يعني أو مقارنة بين ما يحدث من هنا وبين ما، فهذا مهمة الصحفيين أن يكون يعني عادلين، لا يكونوا يعني يميلون إلى جهة معينة. هذا ملخص ما كان من اللقاء الصحفي اليوم في هذا المكان.
Thank you very much, sir, for the summary of the presentations in Arabic for the purpose of our Arabic-speaking audience. Thank you. So, now, we are going to open the floor now for interaction. Members of the press, so you've listened to all of our distinguished leaders. They've spoken to us with regards to our position, our understanding of the issue and our position. So the time is now, the floor is open now for interaction. So questions, clarifications. So questions, clarifications. Okay, so thank you, sir. So we paused a bit so that the interview could go smoothly without disruption. So
we have been following the war in quotes. You have asked us not to term it as a war. We have been following the war between the both countries, and we discovered that everybody seems to be behind Palestine because of the inhumanity that is going on there. So, but I discovered in my findings that Iran seems to be more like the root cause of some of these things. I am not trading blames. I just want us to look at the direction that any time that the Iranian authority issues threats to the Israeli authority, they strike back on the Palestinians, and this is not fair enough. Bí kéèyàn ṣe mí kí n gbá ilé lójú kí n wá ẹni tó ṣe mí yẹn tó yẹ kí ó gbé mi lójú padà torí pọ́n jọmọ ìyá tó ó wá gbá ilé létí. So I think we should look at look towards the direction of why Iran needs to calm down and rather push for negotiation rather than issue. The last time Aniye was killed, the Hamas leader, another one has emerged now. So all of these things are the things that are infuriating the Israeli authority and making them to. I think that those are the things that are infuriating them and making them to. So Iran should stop issuing threats, because the more they issue threats, I think the more they issue threats, the more they are they are striking the people in Palestine, which is not good. Instead of Iran now to be bearing the brunt, they are just making their brothers. They are making them suffer for the threats they have been issuing. The last time they sent about 300 airstrikes to Israel. Instead of Israel to react back to Iran.
Why do you think Israel will not strike Iran?
That is why we need to advocate for negotiation, because it is telling more on the Palestinians. We shouldn't trade blames. So gbàtí àwọn Iran ti mọ̀ pé Israel ò lè dá wọn mú o, wọ́n yé issue threat sí Israel torí ọmọ ìyá wọn ló fi ń pa. So that is what I want to say.
There's Iran is coming out as the only sympathetic country to defend the interests of Palestine. Iran itself will never initiate an attack except in reaction. I want you to take the word, except in reaction to the atrocities of Israel. That is very clear. In any case, whatever it is, let the whole world unite in condemning the irunye kawalo shele láàrin wa kimba baba ileti kó wá lọ gbẹ́lú mi ileti. Can he escape punishment? Because he has become an oppressor. Èmi tí mo say you refuse to arrest me. Kí ó yẹ kí Israel tí ó bá jẹ́ pé wọ́n ti wà used to their intransigence, why would they not either strike the person to cause strike one or take them to the International Court of Justice? But they refuse to do that. So the issue at hand.
Just a few words. You see, there are certain things people like you may not understand. Iran has its own ambition of having a nuclear weapon. Each time you are saying you are the threat, they divert the attention of the whole world from what they are doing underground. When they start making threats that they are going to attack Israel, what happened? All the war submarines of America were sent to the Middle East. All their super jets, F-35 or whatever they call it, they sent them. Nobody was talking about the nuclear weapon that Iran is amassing. It is when the tension cools down, then people say, what is going on? And then I don't know what they call this nuclear agency that is in charge of, supervising what is going on about nuclear. Then they run back to Iran. By the time they got there, they see they have advanced. So it is not actually because of Israel alone. They also want to be a power in that region, which they are already anyway, but they want to be a super one. But they don't, if Pakistan has nuclear, India has nuclear weapon, why shouldn't Iran have? It is because of the fear that they don't know who is going to be the next king of Saudi Arabia that they have not allowed Saudi to have nuclear weapon. They would have given it to Saudi Arabia at least to checkmate Iran. But who knows what is going to happen tomorrow if they succeed in assassinating the crown prince in Saudi Arabia. And one hot head becomes
who is afraid of it?
All hot head becomes the king of Saudi Arabia, and is already having a nuclear weapon. Then they have been able to empower militarily an opponent of Israel. And you also wonder, that question I thought somebody was going to ask it. It happened when we heard something like this in Abuja. Some journalists were concerned. Where are the Arabs when their brothers were being killed? Why are they supporting Israel? They are supporting Israel because of their own selfish interest. Most of the leaders in the Arab world are there illegally.
By the grace of
they are not loved by their people. So if they should even say a word too strong against Israel, America will instigate their people against them and they will leave power. Their family will be wiped off the sovereignty of their countries. So Iran is trying to protect its own interests also, using this one as a stepping stone. Before you know it now, in fact, people believe it's a question of how many warheads they have. It's not a question that they don't have nuclear. How many have they amassed? If there is peace, the whole world will concentrate on Iran having a nuclear. When there is a confusion, nobody thinks about, how do we protect Israel? They start sending warplanes, send warships and so on. So it's part of the game.
Local powers are trying their best to make sure that they checkmate one another. So they are playing chess game there. So that's why also you could see what happened in Syria when Russia supported the current president, their son. America was supporting the opposition, and Russia came in to support the current in order to strengthen it. So a lot of politics is going on there. So that's why the media, like former minister mentioned, media in this kind of situation needs to be research-driven so that we can get a lot of insight. Beyond just reporting, there must be a lot of context.
And like your ambassadors,
yeah, exactly.
the high time they started advocating that disasters like this should not be used to play politics.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because if we keep news on that, it means that everybody has their own interest.
Exactly.
Let me support Palestine.
Yeah.
Palestine is an Islamic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So everybody just needs to come outside to advocate that this is not the time to play politics.
Exactly.
At the detriment of the lives of people that are
exactly that are dying. Thank you very much, sir. And these are some of the things we are media to shed light on. That's why context is very important. So don't just report what Al Jazeera, BBC, and AP, AFP, and so on. Just report, and just tweak it and so on. So we need to also dig deep to make sure that we bring even some local flavor. Because, for example, now what we are doing here is to bring local context into that global issue, is it not? So people in Abuja, in Lagos, and other places. So we are bringing local context into this global interplay of forces that we are witnessing. So thank you, sir, for the important question. So, Barrister, any addition? Barrister Awan? The 1 minute? Okay. So thank you very much, sirs and ma'ams, for the time that we have been with us. And we have implicit trust that the reportage of the event that happened today will not come with, sometimes a personal opinion, a background, sometimes interfere with the way we report. And we play there won't be such with regards to what will happen, what has happened today. Let me give an example. There was a time when there was the hijab issue in Osun State. Now, Muswen, that's the umbrella body for Muslims in Southwest, organized a press conference similar to this at Bodija, State Central Mosque. At the end of the event, now, the correspondent for Vanguard used one line. Muswen called, because at that point, Muslims were now going to the schools, a particular school, to enforce the use of the hijab in that school. Muswen now felt that this, the state agencies are the ones that are empowered to enforce the law. So Muslims should not take the law into their hands. So they are appealing to their brothers as the umbrella body for Muslims. Our brothers and sisters in Osun, don't take the law into your hands. Allow the agencies of government to do the needful to enforce the law. Now, the Vanguard correspondent that was at the event, I think he was the chairman of the correspondence chapter at that time, in his own report, that was the only report, because we monitored how this the press conference was reported. In his report, he used that against us, that Muswen condemns. Do you get the point now? Muswen condemns Muslims who were enforcing the law. And we were shocked. Now, the material, the press statement, almost like a 10-page document. So you now pick that one line, where Muswen was appealing, and you turn it against Muswen. Appease, exactly. So you know, you turn it against. Where am I going? Where am I going, sirs? Is this? That will be the first time that I will witness two reports by a media outlet on the same event. Because the media consultant to Muswen happened to be a former deputy chairman of editorial board of Vanguard. He now called the editor. I think, I don't know whether I see there. After the press entries, what happened? Your correspondent here turned the whole story against us. We are the ones who invited the media. We organized this press conference. Yes, and he turned it against us. You have to do something. So, Maribo now requested the editor, please, can I have the soft copy of the press statement? We made it to him. He now assigned that press statement to another journalist. Within a few days, 2-3 days later. So, I hope you can understand where I'm driving at. Now, editorialization. We have to be very careful. So please, let's be very careful, because the media has a very important role to play. You talk about peace, you talk about negotiation, you talk about the need for us to make sure that we coexist peacefully, but the media has a great role to play. So please don't allow editorialization to interfere with fact, with truth about what has happened here. So we pray that God will continue to protect you, because you are doing a very significant job in the interest of all of us. So may God continue to give you the wisdom and the courage to do the needful at all times. So thank you, sirs and ma'ams. We are going to call it a day, and we'll call on Barrister Awad. Barrister Awad, closing dua, sir, to close the event. Closing prayer, sir.
Sallu ala Nabi al-Karim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. We thank Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has made it possible for us to hold this international press briefing in respect of the liberation of the Palestine. We invoke the name of Allah the Almighty to please continue to be with the people of Palestine. May Allah grant them peace, security, and protection. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala minister into the hearts of the oppressors, so that they will see the need to allow peace. We pray to Almighty Allah to soften the minds of the superpowers, to withdraw their support for the oppressor, and may Allah grant the oppressed people all over the world, particularly in Gaza, may Allah grant them the desired freedom. All over the world we want peace. Islam stands for peace. Islam hates and condemns aggression in all ramifications. We pray to Almighty Allah to let all the powers see the need to maintain peace. In our country, Nigeria, we pray for peace, we pray for peace, we pray for Allah's protections. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to be with our leaders. May Allah guide them aright, so that they will continue to do what is good. And for the organizers of this program, we pray to Almighty Allah to continue to uphold and strengthen them. May Allah continue to support them, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them abundantly in this world and in the hereafter. Rabbana ifrig alayna sabran wa thabbit aqdamana wa anzurna ala al-qawmil kafirin. Allahumma Rabbana ighfir lana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءنا وأعداء الدين وانصر عبادك المجاهدين في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب وإن جندنا ولا حول.
Thank you, sir. May Allah accept our prayer. So please, before we depart, we want to have a group photograph for members of the press. If this is not against the ethics of the profession, you may not stand behind this for obvious reasons, so that you not interfere with your ethics. Maybe we can look maybe there or here. So we want to, and the organizers, Barrister Atta. So with members of the press, then another one with our elders, then another one with all the participants. But maybe the media. So let's have their own photograph first. So then, other participants, other brothers who can join.
Wọ́n ní lójú Christian kò wé ló gbà ìyá àgbé ìjọba àti mo ló ti rí tẹ́ nínú nílé ní wọn.
Wọ́n kù.